Took a trip back to 1995. Relived those feelings and I made it out.
I'm Dave Kerzner. I'm on Cruise to the Edge 2024, and you're listening to Morow.com. And I have a new album called Heartland Minds Volume 1.
Live. Wrote an album no one's ever heard, based upon the truth in every word.
I worked on my latest album that has been released called Heartland Minds Volume 1. And that's been released end of last year. And other than that, I work on other projects. I'm constantly working on music that is going to eventually be released. So, for instance, I have a number of tribute albums, a Genesis tribute, a Pink Floyd tribute, a Rush tribute. Looking to get those done. And this year we're actually going to release the Lamb Lies Down on Broadway tribute because it's the 50th anniversary. So we're kind of kicking in high gear and trying to get that done now. So, and also writing. I have Heartland Minds Volume 2 coming, and then I have another a little more. That's more of a singer-songwriter style album, and I've got a progressive rock album, and then in continuum album. So I kind of work away on these with different people, and then eventually it gets to a point where it's priority, and I get something done and put it out. So I'm constantly building music, recordings and writing throughout the year.
Red hail, rewind, dark cloud, fill your mind. We slip down the line, through a field of littered lies. Warlock, tongue tied, big blast. Skies cry. He steps down the line through a field of littered minds. You race to the eye of the storm. Burn out. Flash flood.
This is an album that's more personal. It's kind of autobiographical. A lot of times I write concept albums that are science fiction oriented, about traveling through dimensions or traveling through time, or subjects like that. And this is, strangely enough, it is also about time travel, but in a very down-to-earth way. It's basically me traveling back in time in my mind to when I was in my 20s and living in Los Angeles, and I was playing with an artist named Kevin Gilbert, and I was trying to get my own record deal, and I had a girlfriend who was very similar to Kevin's girlfriend, who was Sheryl Crow actually at the time, and the sort of the thing that Kevin went through was, he was helping Sheryl with her first two records, and then she just took off and left him behind, and Kevin thought like my girlfriend was going to do the same thing. He's like, look, did you not just see what happened? And I didn't listen to him, and sure enough, she got a record deal and was like, goodbye, and I was left, because I moved in with her in Santa Monica. I was left without a home, so I could have just stayed with friends or whatever. I decided instead to just kind of get in my car and drive, and without a plan. I brought a guitar, and I wrote songs on the drive. And there were all these adventures on the drive too to write about, different states of mind. Different, like being sad. At one point in the journey, I'm like 3 days in, and I decide to call her. Genevieve is the name of the character. Not her real name, but she had disconnected her phone. I thought I'd call her, see if we could work it out. Disconnected the phone. So I wrote a song called Worlds Apart, and the whole song is built around the beep, doo-doo-doo. We're sorry, because that's the sound that used to be in the United States for a disconnected line. And so I sampled that doo-doo-doo, and I made it an instrument, actually. So I'm playing that as a keyboard. And then there's other songs like Dirty Girl. Along the way, I met this girl who I guess just lives in a small town, and if you're, you know, whoever's coming through, you know, it could be like, oh, exciting, you know. And she lived with her parents. You know, I was young and she was like probably 18 or 19, and she lived with her family. And when her father wasn't home or whatever, she would, like, you know, try to party. I think they were very religious too, so there was like strictly nothing, you know, before marriage. And then she was like, you know, anyway, so it was a funny song. It was like a comedy, you know, it was a comedic moment actually, but I ended up sleeping in a sleeping bag outside her place because the stars were all out and there was no light pollution. So there's all these like little stories along the way. You know, one of the first songs, Dreaming in LA, is about this, the music industry in LA and well, in the world, but like especially in LA, where you have people there who just want to make it. They just want to be famous. You know, it doesn't matter, and they're so desperate for that. And I felt like I don't want to be like, why am I here? You know, do I want to be famous? I mean, is that why I'm here? Like, no, actually, I don't really care about all that stuff. I care about the art. You know, I'm into music because I love the music that I grew up listening to, and I wanted to do that as well. And so I felt like I needed to take a step out of that kind of race for fame and just think, I just need to make great music. And then once I have the music, then I can go around and try to get a record deal or do whatever I'm going to do. But I don't need to stand around waiting for a big break. So that was also another aspect of leaving LA, just thinking like, you know, and the irony is this was in the 90s before the internet really took off. So eventually, it wasn't long before, let's say the 2000s, where the internet, you could really be any place and sell your album from anywhere in the world. But I was already feeling that. I was feeling like, I mean, that I don't need to be in LA, and it's more expensive to live in LA too, to be able to create what I want to create. And then I could bring it to the world. Of course, now I've been living in Miami since the 2000s, which is where I grew up anyway. You know, I'm here on Cruise to the Edge, which ships ironically out of Miami, which is very convenient. And we have people from all over the world. You know, Morow.com's from France, but we have people from England, from Australia, from, you know, everywhere, and Germany. And it's like a melting pot, you know, of international, our love for progressive rock music, for instance, on this particular boat festival. So, yeah, it just was kind of almost like foreseeing the future of how I would be able to just do what I want to do, because I really, you know, if I wanted to be rich and famous, I'd be doing maybe hip hop music or something else. It's like really, you know, popular. And this music is very niche, it's not very popular, but it has its own world. And I feel very comfortable in that world because I do whatever I want to do. When I make an album, whether it's Heartland Minds, which is more accessible, a little bit more pop, you know, than prog, or, you know, prog album where there's long songs and lots of instrumental bits, I'm always doing what is artistically satisfying and feels genuine for me. And that's been the most important thing. But I think, you know, when I'm writing an album now the songwriting was started in the 90s. These are songs that weren't finished, but they were all started in that time. And now, you know, so many years later, I'm older, I'm wiser, I can look back at that time and kind of articulate the stories and what I wanted to say. But I also have, you know, the fulfillment of that vision in hindsight already, which is like, oh yeah, okay, that's why I left LA. It's because I wanted to kind of find myself artistically and find my purpose and not be like, just caught up in the drama and everyone trying to just step on each other's toes, stepping stones to be famous or whatever. And I'm like, I don't need any of that. I just need my peace of mind and my art,
There's a willing party for all your needs that you desire. Dad is not home, so there's no need to hide. Just a creepy bro in the other room, but it pays no mind. It's either this or you can sleep outside with the stars. With one eye open all the time. She's rest from her knees, willing to do the deed. Are you ready to proceed? I found myself in a sleeping bag under the midnight sky.
The album itself is, you can look at it kind of like a flashback, so in the sense that I'm because that's exactly what it is. I'm revisiting my past, my own personal past, and this particular kind of milestone moment where I just stepped out of the box and said, and the other thing about it too was that I'm a keyboard player, and I like gadgets, and I like keyboards, and guys like Jeff Downes and Tony Banks and Rick Wakeman are my heroes. And they have always traditionally, especially in the 70s, had stacks of keyboards and all these instruments. It's like an orchestra. And that inspired me to be a keyboard player. And so what was interesting about this drive that I took, where I had just taken a guitar, which is not my main instrument, is I forced myself to think outside of the box, to not have all my usual comfort zone tools, and see what I can create from the heart, kind of a thing, and thinking, say, okay, you don't have the luxury of just mellotron, all these, big sounds. What can you do with just that instrument? So I like that challenge. But the interesting thing is, so I'm writing this album, Volume 1, based on that trip in the 90s. Volume 2 brings in another layer of time, which is already now in the past. And that is about 5 years ago or so, I guess you could say I was maybe going through a midlife crisis. Not incredibly so, but let's say I was dating somebody a lot younger than me and thinking I was invincible and young again, that kind of thing when you're in your late 40s and early 50s. And I was capturing driving footage to recreate the visuals, because for Heartland Minds Volume 1, I did a Blu-ray, and instead of it just with surround sound, but instead of it just being a static image, there's actually music videos for the whole album. And a lot of it has our own footage that Eric Nilsson, my friend, and I shot driving around the country. And so while I was doing that, the young girlfriend that I had broke up with me while I'm driving. And I'm like, and I was sad. It wasn't quite the same. When I was in my 20s, that was my fiance, actually. So it was a little heavier. I was like, okay, this is just, devastating. This wasn't devastating, but it still kind of reminded me of a few things. One, the volatility of relationships, and especially when it's just exciting and fun and you're not thinking about how's this going to work or how's this going to last, especially with someone who's like half my age or something. I mean, it's not practical. So it's, anyone who was, let's say, a friend of mine could just say, well, what did you think was going to happen? That's not going to last. And sure enough, it didn't. But I was sad while driving, and then I wrote some other songs about that feeling, because I like to, well, even if I am writing about sci-fi stories, I like to write about real human emotions and experiences and situations, especially in relationships, where, like one recurring theme for me, which I just think is, it's just a thing, is like when you enter into a relationship and you see that there's something that's, a little bit of a warning sign that it's not going to work out or that it could end in tears, but you go for it anyway. And it's like, well, what, like Into the Sun is about that. It's like, I find that to be sort of a tragedy in a poetic way that's great for a song, just because I think so many people, especially musicians, would just kind of go for this shiny thing and then get all excited, and then it's just like, oh, this is like the long distance relationship or something, or something really kind of volatile. And I've done it. I'm actually a little more grounded now. I'm here with my girlfriend on Cruise to the Edge, and everything's totally cool. I don't foresee any horrible situations to write about anymore, but I've got plenty of them to draw upon. So anyway, the second volume has this second layer that's kind of cool, which is basically the midlife crisis layer, I call it, but then it goes back in time with the flashbacks too. So you get both. You get some more of the journey from the original, which includes all kinds of other nice little stories. There's one song about at one point I was lost, and I went in, and I had a ponytail, and I had a hair like this, and I decided to cut the ponytail, thinking, and it just, my hair was flying all over the place, and I'm like, okay, that was a mistake, it's not that easy. And so this guy in a diner, I sat next to him, he's like a trucker, and I bought him breakfast, and he gave me his hat, because I told him the story, and he's like, oh, here, take this, So there's just like some nice stories. I slept in my car. There was some destitute situations where I was just hitting rock bottom, so some really deep, sad stuff. But then there's some retrospective and kind of a little bit of humor and a bit of, like learned wisdom and things like that. And it kind of just tells the rest of the story in terms of, like I said, like an autobiographical way of how both the original journey and revisiting it itself turned out to be full of life lessons and things that just kind of helped me grow as a person and as an artist, so that I could, again, going back to a little bit of that challenge, even now for the second volume, with some of the newer songs, of just being, okay, well, how can you say what you want to say without all the keyboards and without all the bells and whistles and everything? Can you just say it if it was just you and a piano or just you and an acoustic guitar? So it's not, I'm not saying it's stripped down to that only, but it has those moments, very intimate,
Genevieve, a mystical girl who no one really knows.
By the way, we're listening to Simon Phillips' Soundcheck. It was amazing. And Simon played on my first album, my solo album, New World, which is an honor. Anyway, so long story short, what I was saying is that the other album that I have that I've been working on is about near-death experience, totally dark and proggy and full of keyboards and full of big production and all that. So,
But it's also a solo album?
Yeah. So, those are the easiest to make. But, I do have other band projects as well, so, in the works.
We were talking about In Continuum at the beginning. What could you say about it? There is a new record?
Yeah, slowly working on the third album from In Continuum, yeah. So I've already started it. So I don't know when it'll come out, though.
When the heart sinks like a stone.
Well, there is a little bit of a sound of contact from Simon, who reached out to me, and then we've been talking about working together for a while. And then more recently had a band meeting with, the four of us, Simon, Kelly, Matt, and myself. And we all talked about the desire to work together. We're sending ideas, music ideas to each other. And I think, realistically, given, the challenges that we've had in the past, getting stuff done, and it's all living in different parts of the world, and it being very expensive to do, really, to take on, like, okay, we're going to do a whole album. It's like, okay, that's a big commitment. So this time, instead of making big commitments, I think what we might do is try working on a song together, working on a song or two, maybe release a song, just so people can, remember who we are and, go like, hey, like, and that way it definitely happens. Whereas I think sometimes if the mountain to climb is too high, and I think that was maybe our problem before, we were trying to do a lot of things and it just wasn't that easy to pull off with everybody for whatever reason. And so if we had just maybe said, look, let's just put out a song, we would have put out a song, and maybe the response would have been like, or even just the funds, sometimes when you, you can't, obviously it's different when you have Phil Collins' son in the band. And so, Phil Collins is a huge pop star. Oh, okay. Phil Collins is a huge pop star. And, it's an unrealistic expectation to think that means that you have funds, money to just do whatever. When you're Dave Kerzner, band, or in Continuum, which is pretty much, you have the funds of whatever you get paid to do your festivals and, whatever your band camp or your, and that's it. Which is good, because that gives me like, okay, this is how you do it. Whereas, so I think with Sound of Contact, it's better that we're able to operate realistically with that, without like, thinking we can just, like, it's the good old days and we can spend anything we want. So I've been doing that approach for a while, and I think that, everybody in the band is warming up to this idea of taking it one step at a time and putting out a song, or maybe doing a Kickstarter, or doing a Bandcamp pre-order, or just do some things and see how it goes. And then if the funds come in, if the demand is there, then things can happen. Same thing by the way, with touring. People take it for granted. They just think, oh, I'll catch you next time you tour. It's like, you have to buy the tickets. Especially, people spend enormous amounts of money to go see Bruce Springsteen or Sting or Peter Gabriel. And I understand it's a great show, whatever, but the indie prog bands like Big Train or Sound of Contact or Dave Kerzner band or Matt Dorsey or anybody, if they sell out, then the bands make money and then they can do more things. If they undersell, that's the end of the line. You can't do it. So, that's why when people wonder, like, why was this tour canceled, or why does this happen? Why doesn't this happen? It's because it's a huge risk. So, I think sometimes people don't understand that things happen or don't happen based on the finances of all that kind of stuff, and it's a risk. And it's like, I can't afford to take huge risks. So I just do things like Cruise to the Edge, Prague Stock. We did a little tour, and we lost money on it. So it's just like, okay, So Sound of Contact's no different. I look at it no differently. I look at it like, or Arc of Life is another band I'm in with Billy Sherwood and the guys from Yes. Yes has followers who go there, who know it. Arc of Life doesn't tour because we don't know if the same amount of people would come to see an Arc of Life show. So we have to be careful. Maybe we'd play like a festival or something like that. So we'll see. But I think, the main thing is, it goes back to what I was saying before, which is like, what? I'm only speaking for myself, but I know that the people I work with, a lot of them feel the same way. We care about the art. We care about the music. We care about, so it's like, all right, you know what? Sometimes it's even okay if all you do is write songs and record them and put them out. Maybe you don't tour. Maybe you do. Maybe you do Cruise the Edge. Maybe you don't do. It's like, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. And that I think is maybe the reason why there hasn't been a Sound of Contact follow-up. Is because in our minds we were thinking, oh, it's got to be big. It's got to be. And it's like, well, what if we just write songs together because we like each other, we're friends, and start there. you know, and we enjoy that. It's my favorite part is writing and recording songs. So I think, you know, with age, with wisdom, and with, you know, also with things under our belt, you know, Matt has released his solo album, Let Go. Kelly, you know, who has also had written a lot of songs that didn't end up on Dimensionaut, or even the second album that we were going to do, and he finally had an outlet with Simon on E-Molecule. And now that everybody's gotten that feeling, you know, got it out of their system, I think everybody feels a bit more relaxed about just creating whatever we can and not feeling like, you know, I need to get my... Because that's, I think when you're a songwriter, there's that itch to kind of get your music out there and get, you know, have an outlet for expression. So with Kelly and Simon working on another E-Molecule record, and me working on In Continuum, and Matt working on his next solo record, this is icing on the cake. We're already artistically satisfied, and it's sort of like, well, what if we could just do it because we want to, you know, not because we need to, or it represents like all our eggs in one basket, you know. It's really just like a bonus, and we know the fans have been asking for it for years, you know, see if we could do something. And I always take the stance of like, I don't think it's going to happen, you know, don't expect too much of this. But, you know, it all depends on the guys. You know, I want to do it, you know, but if not, then I have all these other things to do, so I stay busy. But, you know, when Simon reaches out and he wants to do it, it's just like, I'm on board, you know, so we'll see what happens.
Lost control, crossed the line, walked the edge one last time. Close the door, lock the gate, spin the wheel, twist your fate. Heard the call, walk the wall, go the rope and watch us fall. In a cloud, take a look around. You're so high, you're not coming down. Look, the rain's fading away. You're so high, you're not coming down. No regard for who's around you.
Yeah, well, what happened was, you know, there's these opportunities, and two things happened at the same time, which was, one, last year was the 10th anniversary of the album, and I had wanted to do a lot of things that we couldn't do, and I wish we could have, like mixing the album in surround would have been nice. That's something I would do, but I don't have that decision power, and it's signed with a label, and there's more to it than that. So it wasn't something that I was able to control. Otherwise, that's what I would have done. But what I was able to do is I was already booked to headline, actually, Prague Stock with my own music, with my band. And Matt was also playing the festival with his band for his solo music. So we had, since we had the headliner, and it's a longer set than we normally have, we had 2.5 hours. I think it was 2.5 hours, 2 hours at least. I said, why don't we do all of Dimensionaut? I've actually never done it, because when Sound of Contact did do the whole album, I wasn't in the band, so I missed that. And so it was kind of like a bucket list. And of course I did invite Simon and Kelly. Matt and I invited Simon and Kelly to say, look, if you guys can make it, you're totally welcome. I mean, it's not booked. We don't want to book it as Sound of Contact. I mean, even if Matt and I, you know, some bands, they call it the band without the other members. I didn't want to do that. So I just said, look, it's us, but if they wanted to come and they showed up, we would do it. But they couldn't do it, but they said maybe at another time. But anyway, so we had Michael Sadler join us. We had all sorts of great guests, Sally Muneer, Randy McStein, and my core band with Fernando Perdomo. And we have Nick DiVirgilio, or do we have Derek? I forget. Oh, Derek, I think. Yeah, it was Derek. That's right. Yeah, well, he had a lot of work to do to learn all that, but he did. And of course, Matt Dorsey and I. And Matt and I shared a lot of the vocals, So we did that, and that was fun too. You know, it's fun to sing those songs, and so we recorded it and videoed it. So we're gonna work on, and I'll finally be able to mix that in surround at least. I'm into surround and all that kind of stuff. So we'll have a concert video. Hopefully, that's the plan. Dimension Out Live. You know, it would have been nicer to have the 4 original members if we could have pulled it off. But you know, if we can do that, you know, we joke around. It's like we'll do the 11th anniversary, the 12th anniversary, the 13th anniversary. I mean, I don't think anybody really cares if we were able to do that, but I just didn't want to miss the 10th anniversary because that's pretty special. And now this year is the 10th anniversary of New World, so I'm mixing that in surround. And doing a few extra things with that, with visuals and stuff. And we played a lot of the songs from that album on the cruise this time. So, yeah, just doing what we can. And then there'll be a Heartland Minds live album and concert video as well from that same show, but just 2 separate, items. Because it's a long show, so you've got, the album, and then you've got Dimension on album.